Greetings, fellow National Guardsmen. I am Lieutenant Colonel Scott Smith.
And I am Sergeant First Class Gail Bettis. Welcome to your State Active Duty Briefing.
The purpose of this briefing is to provide you a general overview of what to expect while you're on state active duty, and to discuss some of the unique aspects associated with state active duty service.
National Guard soldiers and airmen mobilize and deploy to assist in domestic operations within their state or in another state and normally perform these duties under one of two statuses, state active duty or in the capacity of Title 32. This video is designed to cover only those unique aspects associated with state active duty status. A portion of this video will cover the 5 major differences between state active duty service and what you may be familiar with while performing duties in a Title 32 status. First, you must understand you are now an employee of the state of Idaho, not an employee of the federal government or the Department of Defense. Hence the second difference, your pay, allowance, and benefits. Third, while performing state active duty service, in the unfortunate event you are injured, your medical coverage and care will now be handled through the State of Idaho Workers' Compensation Plan and not a TRICARE claim through a line of duty investigation. Fourth, while in a state active duty status, there are unique legal aspects for all National Guard soldiers and airmen while performing their duties. And fifth, there are differences in the process of awards and decorations recognizing your efforts while in state active duty. The following sections of this video address the majority of scenarios for the duty you are about to perform, but the nature of domestic operations can vary, which may influence how state active duty impacts you. A state active duty briefing facilitator is available to answer any questions you may have after watching this video. So let's get started.
To calculate pay, the state of Idaho factors your military pay and allowances. That is, basic pay, basic allowance for housing, basic allowance for subsistence, incentive pay, etc. Utilizing the same pay scale as if you were an AGR soldier or airman. In other words, the state uses the 30-day pay scale combined with all the other allowances you're entitled to, divided by 30, in order to determine your daily rate of pay. This daily rate of pay is what you'll receive for every day you're in state active duty status. The duration of your state active duty status can be found on your state active duty order. Additionally, this daily pay is calculated for a 12-hour duty day, regardless of the actual number of hours worked, whether you worked for 8 or 16 hours, for example. So, while there is no overtime for exceeding a 12-hour day, you will still earn a full 12-hour pay even if you work less. Receiving your pay is also unique. State active duty pay is received via paper check through the U.S. Postal Service, which you'll physically have to deposit or cash with a financial institution. You'll need to submit a W-4 upon entering state active duty service. This will indicate your physical address you would like your paper check to be mailed to on the W-4. It's important the address you provide is accurate and legible.
When you are paid is also unique. State of Idaho pay periods are 2 weeks in length. Your services rendered during a specific 2-week pay period are not paid until a payday, essentially 2 weeks after a pay period ends. On that payday, the state of Idaho places the paper check into the mail. This means that the date in which you receive your check is determined by 2 factors: when during the pay period you begin your state active duty orders and how efficient the Postal Service is processing your check through the mail. You'll also notice a difference between the way the state and federal governments withhold taxes. On a federal paycheck, only your base pay is taxable, and all other allowances and benefits are exempt from taxation. With a state active duty paycheck, everything is subjected to taxation. Additionally, if your state active duty is tied to a sanctioned emergency event or disaster, your paycheck will not be subjected to a Federal Insured Contribution Act or FICA taxation. Your basic allowance of housing is another point of distinction between your federal and state paychecks. Your federal BAH entitlement is associated with the zip code of your home of record. However, the state entitlement of BAH is associated with the zip code of Gowan Field in Boise, 83705.
Finally, let's discuss the leave and earning statements you'll receive for performing state active duty. Unlike logging into MyPay and digitally reviewing your leave and earning statements, a state active duty leave and earning statement is generated from the Idaho Military Division's Human Resource Office and is a relatively simple format. Upon completing state active duty, this document is generated and sent to the address you provided on your W-4. Unlike the federal leave and earning statements found in MyPay, Your state-generated statement highlights deductions and various taxes imposed on your overall pay, but it does not detail the various pays and entitlements you'd normally see on a federal leave and earnings statement. It simply informs you of how many days you worked, annotated in a 12-hour increments, and provides a total earning value, a total deduction value, and your net pay.
State of Idaho employees of any state agency, to include colleges or universities, must be pre-approved by the Adjutant General of Idaho to volunteer for state active duty. State employees are entitled to the higher of their current state hourly rate multiplied by 12 or the state active duty daily rate. They are also entitled to overtime at time and 1/2 for all hours beyond 40 hours worked in 1 week. It is important that you identify yourself as a State of Idaho employee to your briefing facilitator to ensure your pay is not negatively impacted. If you anticipate a financial hardship due to the pay cycle, loan assistance may be available through the Family Support Fund, which will be covered in more detail later in the brief. Medical insurance coverage is provided through the State Insurance Fund Workers' Compensation Program. Workers' compensation is a no-fault system where the state active duty participant forfeits the right to sue the state in exchange for the established benefits. Workers' compensation is the state's exclusive remedy in the event of the state's active duty participant's injury, disability, impairment, or death. The primary goal of the workers' compensation is to restore the injured worker to the pre-injury status and to return them back to gainful employment. Workers' compensation insurance is similar to the military's line of duty claims system. The HRO State Personnel Branch coordinates all submitted claims with the State Insurance Fund, which administers the workers' compensation program. Reported injuries and claims that occur while on state active duty orders will not be considered a result of military duty. It is important to understand that any injuries suffered on state active duty will not be covered as a LOD and will not be considered service-connected by the Veterans Administration. You must report all accidents, injuries, or illnesses to your supervisor, even if medical attention is not sought. Please do not avoid seeking medical attention or treatment if needed.
Your leadership will investigate and document each reported incident using a supervisor's accident report, which is sent to HRO within 24 hours of the event. Make sure to include all supporting evidence when submitting this report. Make sure your SGLI and DD-93 are up to date before you leave for duty. You will have the opportunity during your SRP or PDF to update emergency contact and SGLV forms and to verify or update your home of record and mailing address for your state active duty payroll earnings statement. You will receive a hard copy of your state active duty orders. Keep a copy with you at all times. If you have not received and reviewed these forms and information, or have not received a copy of your state active duty orders, please address this with your Air National Guard A1 or Army National Guard G1 support personnel at the conclusion of this briefing, but prior to departure. You may also contact the State Human Resources Office. Contact information for these offices is contained in the trifold handed out during this briefing. Every soldier or airman should receive a medical release form either during this brief or while on the processing line. It must be completed and turned in before leaving this briefing. The state of Idaho pays medical care costs for injuries and incidents that occur only while you're in state active duty status. This includes any long-term care associated with those injuries. Pre-existing conditions and/or medications will not be covered by the state. A medical screening will take place prior to and after your state active duty tenure. You'll need to bring twice the amount of any necessary prescription medicine as well as your own supply of over-the-counter medicine, such as Tylenol or allergy medicine. If you wear contacts, you will need to bring your glasses. You will also need to bring sunscreen, chapstick, and other personal care items. If you have brought the required amount of your prescription medications, have a medical condition which has not been disclosed, or have a medical question, please see the briefing facilitator who will direct you to a medical provider. Be mindful of operational stress and its effects on you and those working with you. You may be asked to work long or odd hours, which may have adverse effects on your decision-making skills, increasing risk and the potential for accidents. You can combat the negative effects of operational stress by resting adequately, staying hydrated, and watching out for one another.
Make sure to only drink water from government-approved sources such as blister bags, water buffaloes, and water bottles. Additionally, only drink beverages made of similar approved water. Brush your teeth with and consume ice made only from purified water. Never assume water is safe if you don't know where it came from. Be aware of harmful or dangerous plants and animals in the area, which may cause pokes, cuts, irritation, sickness, or even death. To mitigate potential injuries from plants, avoid contact with unfamiliar vegetation by dressing appropriately. If you do come into contact with a plant that causes irritation, rinse your skin promptly after exposure and seek medical attention if necessary. Never eat any part of an unfamiliar plant. To mitigate potential injuries from animals, avoid contact with wildlife. Watch where you step, wear gloves and other protective clothing, wear insect repellent, and report animal bites and scratches immediately.
Animals may be stressed, dislocated, diseased, or may be seeking shelter, which can lead animals to attack. So give them plenty of space. Don't attract animals by leaving food out. And remember, not only can rodents cause damage to equipment, they can carry hantavirus or other diseases and make you sick. Keeping a clean environment will prevent exposure to rodents and other animals. Some of the diseases associated with the local fauna are West Nile virus, Lyme disease, Giardia, rabies, and hantavirus. To protect yourself, ensure you are adequately vaccinated, wash your hands often, and engage in good personal hygiene.
Remember, often when on state active duty, you are operating in an abnormal environment. Be aware of the operational risks and dangers associated with the ongoing operation. For example, pay attention to the fire and smoke activity during the responses or water levels when responding to floods. Inform your supervisor if you have a specific health or safety concern about operating in the environment to which you are about to deploy. Pay attention to potential weather-related injuries. In the summer, wear and use appropriate clothing and equipment. Use the buddy system to watch for symptoms associated with heat injuries. Avoid overexertion, particularly in poor air quality areas, and stay hydrated. In cold weather, pay attention to numbness of extremities and make sure you periodically warm up in a heated shelter. Make sure vehicle operators are qualified for the vehicles they are assigned to operate and that they are provided with accurate maps or routes of the operational area. Drive according to the law and according to conditions. Vehicle operators must also carry safety and emergency equipment, use appropriate personal protective equipment, wear seat belts while in transit, and ensure cargo is properly strapped down.
You are likely deploying to an environment that has been greatly impacted by a disaster. The environment may be in an altered state, which could increase additional safety concerns and hazards. Seek to eliminate unnecessary risk by continually identifying and assessing hazards and by using the DD 2977 to complete the composite risk assessment process. Risk assessment approval should be accomplished by the appropriate level of leadership. Always use the correct tools and procedures and the right amount of teamwork for the job.
Use proper lifting techniques when handling overweight or oversized loads. When required, get help when moving or lifting heavy or bulky objects. Take your time walking on uneven or difficult terrain. Add traction devices or change footwear if conditions require. Wear safety vests in high traffic areas or wear lights at night if the mission requires. You can contact Air or Army National Guard medical and safety professionals using the contact information contained in the trifold.
Most importantly, don't delay seeking medical attention during a medical emergency. Processing the paperwork is always secondary to seeking adequate emergency care.
While performing state active duty, the logistics that support your domestic operation differs typically from Title 32 status. The National Guard is federally funded and federally equipped for its wartime purpose. However, the National Guard is authorized to utilize this equipment for domestic purposes, but the state is required to reimburse the federal government for this use. When it comes to operating Army and Air Force equipment and vehicles during state active duty, you may be required to track and maintain a daily log of equipment usage. Depending on the particular piece of equipment, there may be specific costs associated with it, which may be determined by an hourly, daily, or mileage rate, or a combination thereof. At the end of each day, your unit is required to submit to the state an equipment usage roll-up report. Purchasing fuel for government vehicle differs while on state active duty. Rather than a federal DoD fuel card, your state active duty task force leadership will receive a state-issued fuel card to purchase fuel and oil for all vehicles and equipment assigned to your unit. The state assumes and expects that you and your unit are fully equipped and prepared to conduct all aspects of the domestic mission you have been called upon to perform. Before deploying to your duty location, make sure you are adequately prepared and equipped. Bottom line, the state will not reimburse soldiers or airmen for mission necessities that were a result of poor prior planning and equipping. Your state active duty orders are based on approval from the governor under Idaho Statute 46-609. As Commander-in-Chief, the governor commands the state militia. Your state active duty protections include all or part of the Service Member Civil Relief Act, the Idaho Tort Claims Act, the Uniform Service Employment and Reemployment Rights Act, or USERRA, and ESGR support is also available. While on state active duty orders, commanders are authorized to impose discipline on state active duty personnel under the Idaho Code of Military Justice. Commanders' options include court-martial, non-judicial punishment, and a range of administrative punishments. Idaho criminal violations may be prosecuted by civil authorities. If you are under a restraining order or have pending legal issues, let your briefing facilitator know immediately.
State active duty personnel are considered State of Idaho employees, and as such, it is critical that personnel stay within the scope of employment, which means being where you need to be and performing your job in a reasonable way. Tort claim coverage and other legal protections may depend on the scope of employment. If a participant leaves their assigned place of duty or does something not consistent with their assigned job, they may be outside the scope of employment and may lack a base for tort claim or other protections.
No use of force is authorized. You are supporting local authorities, but do not have law enforcement powers. The only exception is self-defense and the defense of others. Additionally, no personal or government-owned weapons are authorized. Legal services are provided for state active duty service members and are available as part of the SRP or PDF process. This includes the preparation of wills, powers of attorneys, and advanced medical directives. Other specific services can be rendered if available or authorized and should be discussed as needed with the respective legal team. You can contact your Air or Army National Guard legal representative at the contact information contained in the trifold.
This next portion of the briefing concerns the Family Support Fund, which is available for those who may experience financial hardship due to state active duty service. To be eligible for the Family Support Fund loan, you must be a member of the Idaho National Guard or Reserve Unit or a member of another state's unit but living in Idaho, if no emergency fund is available in that state. You must have successfully completed basic and advanced individual or occupational training, have at least 12 months remaining on your enlistment contract, and have no delinquent outstanding loans with the Idaho Guard and Reserve Family Support Fund. You cannot have any current flags for adverse actions, and you must have satisfactory drill and annual training attendance.
The loan must be paid back. Delinquencies may result in notification of a service member's chain of command, and any unpaid balances may be sent to a collection agency. If there are issues, please communicate these to the Family Support Fund administrators or your supervisor as soon as possible. Just like with a federal activation, the Idaho National Guard family programs are here to support you and your family while on state active duty orders. If issues arise while on orders, your family should contact the Family Assistance Officer. In most cases, your family can receive the assistance they need faster by contacting a family assistance specialist rather than trying to contact you. A family assistance specialist will be contacting your family shortly after your state active duty orders start to answer any additional questions that you may have. Typically, concerns and questions are usually pay-related.
If there is an emergency that requires you to return home, the most effective way to start that process is by having your family contact the Red Cross Center closest to them. There are two numbers to call here in Idaho. One is for the Boise office, and the other is for the Idaho Falls office. Once the Red Cross receives the message, they will contact the Joint Operations Center, which will notify you through your chain of command. Family assistance coordinators will be there to assist your family. Family assistance and Red Cross contact information is also contained in the trifold.
Your spiritual health is just as important as any other aspect of your health, and you can contact the chaplains during your SRP or PDF process to discuss any immediate concerns or reach out to them during your deployment using the contact information provided in the trifold.
Maintaining public trust is a critical part of every National Guard mission. Remember, while on duty and in uniform, you are in the public's eye, so always conduct yourself in a professional manner. Everyone has a cell phone, and nearly all of us use social media. So in essence, reporters are everywhere. Your picture will be taken, your comments will be recorded, and you won't always be aware of it. We live in a 24-hour news cycle world, so remaining cognizant of what will help ensure you maintain a professional demeanor at all times. Media interest is always high during an emergency. If you see media in your area, help ensure your organization is portrayed in a positive and professional light. It is also your duty to help ensure the environment is safe for the media. Pay attention to where media sets up for their reporting. If conditions are not safe, work with them to find a safer location conducive to meeting their objectives. Answering a reporter's question is our opportunity to tell the Guard's story. Identifying a member of your organization ahead of time who is well informed on the mission and able to serve as a spokesperson will better facilitate a reporter's request for an interview.
If you or someone other than the identified spokesperson is asked to participate in an interview and it doesn't interfere with the mission, take time to answer the reporter's questions, but always remember to stay in your lane. Interviews typically last only a couple of minutes. During the interview, don't be afraid to say, "I don't know," and never speculate or answer hypothetical questions. Your trifold includes tips and talking points when speaking to news media. If you're not comfortable participating in an interview, it's completely acceptable to politely decline. When in doubt, refer to the reporter to the State Public Affairs Officer at the number indicated in the trifold. Regarding social media, think before you post. Remember, you are there as a member of the Guard, and your job is to execute a mission, not post to your personal social media page. You may have access to areas which can be off limits to the public. Finding yourself capturing images of devastation where human lives have been negatively impacted, posting this type of imagery to your personal social media site may not only be insensitive, it may be inappropriate. Be sure to inform your supervisor if you have been asked to participate in an interview with news media and seek approval from your chain of command prior to contacting news media.
The trifold given to you as part of this briefing will contain contact numbers for all pertinent agencies discussed in this briefing.
You should have received a digital copy of the trifold to your smartphone during this briefing at the number you indicated on the sign-in roster. This will help ensure you have the necessary point of contact information you need when you need it throughout your state active duty service. Please pull out your phone and verify you received this information.
This concludes our portion of the briefing. Please let your facilitator know if you have any questions, and thank you for your service.